Cool. Sorry. So you were saying I'm sure you're trying to say something, Liz, but I didn't catch it. So go ahead.
No, I was just apologizing. I tried the desktop app, I tried the phone, but none of them worked. It's just the push to talk doesn't work. It's really strange. But I will take the afternoon to figure it out.
It's probably something to do with your key combination. Whatever you're using as your key combination for push to talk is conflicting with something. That's what that sounds like to me. Because it's sorry. Sorry, did someone say something?
I was just agreeing that's a great troubleshooting insight, because that's probably what it is some binding conflict.
Yeah, it's 9 times out of 10. It's amazing.
So I would have to look at the browser settings then, right? Or change the browser maybe?
No, you need to go into Discord itself and go into the. I can tell you right now.
We don't have to do it now. I can.
Just to tell you where to look. So
Okay.
settings on the bottom, that cog down the bottom left near your username, and then you're going to go to voice and video, which is about halfway down.
Yeah.
And in there, you've got your shortcut for push to talk and edit keybind. That's where you're going to need to figure out what's going to be a better keybind for you.
All right. Okay. I will test that later.
Cool. Anyway, yeah, so had good calls this morning, I assume, which is great. I don't know where you got to. I don't know if you discussed what Ksenia was talking about with regards to the ballot tags. Cool. Well, let's discuss them. Liz, I'll let you lead on this, as obviously this is your baby, so go for it. Okay. In the meantime, you there?
Yeah. Can you hear me now?
Can.
It's still strange, huh? Okay. I was saying that Ksenia wrote a document, and I will drop the link for it in the channel so we can all see it. I'm not sure, Matt, if is this also something you're gonna do, like a priority vote?
This is your initiative for this miniDAO. For now, I think Propaganda has a pretty clear direction. We know we need to get done. So we're going to just run at those problems initially. It's less nebulous in terms of what we need to do. It's quite clear. We need to generate viral content for the DAO. That's really simple. So, and we know about Medium, and Medium's going to be Twitter, and we're just trying to find different mechanisms now to run that. So in the immediate now, we're going to just aim for those low-hanging fruit, and we're going to knock some apples off the tree. How did you like my analogy? That was good, right? That was pretty cheesy, but yeah, we're gonna aim at that, and we're gonna run hard at that, and we're gonna try lots of different things. But maybe once we've got that bedded in, then we'll think about a priority vote. But yeah, for now, I think we've got a direction.
Okay, cool. Then I'm just gonna talk about what we have planned. I have to say, this mini Ksenia's baby, I tried to summarize it as good as I can. So the idea is her idea was to create a quadratic vote, a quadratic semantic vote around the purpose of the DataDAO, or basically just to give some idea about what we should orient towards next. So I dropped you the links in the channel, in the miniDAO collaboration channel. And she came up with a couple of tags that we could maybe vote on. You probably all have voted in an influence once, so you know that there's different tags, and these are the options where you can throw your weight at. And I think what she wanted us to do today is go through the tags and discuss them a little bit and see if this is like valuable tags that we could use for a vote. Can you all see the document?
No, if you just share it to, I don't know, the general chat, maybe that'd be better.
Yeah, or I can just also share my screen, but I will drop it again. Can you see it? I also shared my screen. Not sure if it works. Can you see my screen as well? No.
It's still sharing. It's not shared yet. It's like processing.
It's loading. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, but anyway, in the document you see different tags. So the idea is we vote for a priority list. So what is the next priority for the DataDAO? And I should say that there's different things going on in the DataDAO, and I see it as different somehow streams. And one of them is just work. We started working already. People are working and we're producing, and this is really great. And then there is another stream, which is auger talk. I call it the way auger talk. It's just like us trying to figure out how to best communicate tasks, or next on we probably have to think about how to to pay people, like how do we want to set up the treasury, etc., etc. And then there's this idea of that this direction the DataDAO is taking shouldn't just be decided by a couple of people, but it should be decided by everyone who participates in it. And this is what the priority vote is about. So basically what we would be voting on, unless you have some objections to it, is whether we want to focus on partnerships, on creating new partnerships, meaning we reach out to other DAOs, we try to get in touch with them, doing some data analytics for them, grow in that regard. It's up on you, on the voters, to decide whether we're ready for it and if this is a strategy right now at this point and where we're at.
On this first tag, do I understand? I just taking notes here as you speak, and I wrote it down as data as a business development tool. Did I understand this correctly?
Data as a business development tool? You mean in terms of partnerships?
Yeah, is that how you describe this first one?
Where are you looking at? I don't see the data.
No, the partnerships one. As you were talking, I was trying to summarize it in my head and for myself.
In your head,
And so
okay.
And so I'm just wondering if this is a good descriptor for what is meant to be saying here.
If you think of DAOs, maybe as data as a DAO development tool. I don't know if DAOs are really business. It could also be just we look into the communities and we do an analysis of the community or whatever they really need. It's really also a tricky one in my opinion because there is some data analysis going on in a lot of DAOs and we need to see how we can fit in there without, interfering. But it's really interesting, I think. It's gonna bring us a lot more like interesting input if we go into other DAOs. Yeah, so I would call it more of a DAO development strategy.
Okay, I think I understand.
Okay, and the second tag she wrote down is governance.
Sorry, Lizzle.
Yeah.
Your screen's not sharing, so you might as well just quit that.
Okay, just stop that. So the second one is governance. Should we spend more time in talking about governance, how we govern ourselves? We're doing that already. We did today, for me, is also falls on the governance a little bit. But yeah, should we put the main focus on the governance? The question here would be, how do we manage the multi-sig wallet? How do we need more, structures or tools to help us self-govern ourselves? That's the second tag she put. Third on is recruiting more people.
So the second one is about governing the data miniDAO rather than helping to support the governance of the MetaDAO.
Exactly, yeah. No, it's really about the DataDAO. Okay, the second one is recruiting more people. Do we need to actively recruit more people? Do we need to have more people working for us? It's up. I'm just putting this as an open question. Or do we have enough people, or do we have enough people coming in? Is it going to be harder for us to self-govern if we have more people, etc., etc.? It's an interesting. The fourth one she put is branding. Do we need to, work on our branding? Maybe do a nice logo, create some visuals. I went ahead yesterday and just created a visual for the announcement of today's session, but I'm happy to have somebody else do it. I'm not a designer. Just Canva art. Yeah, should we structure this a bit more and get more consistency into how we look as a DataDAO? I heard somebody ask.
In my mind, I don't know if I'm interpreting this correctly. I feel like I'm super new to DAOs and I don't understand them very well at all. But I would imagine that if we have a propaganda DAO, it would be like, why would we waste time trying to build a specialism in being able to market ourselves properly when we can go and talk to those specialists who can do it better? Or did I misunderstand things?
It's an interesting point. I don't know if propaganda is really, if it's their main task to do branding for other miniDAOs, but we could ask them, obviously. We could also pay them if we want to.
We'll take your money. No issues. I'll send you my address. It's not our raison d'etre. Just jump in here as I'm here. Like, it's not our raison d'etre. The raison d'etre propaganda is to create viral loops of content. That's the initial thing we're looking at, is how can we create virality around content? What does that, and then converting that virality into wallet addresses, ID holders, and token holders, right? So it's like really clean. This is what we're trying to do. In terms of branding, we've got designers in the DAO, so there are designers that can help with doing that stuff. I think there's no issue with branding. Why not have it? Each mini DAO has got the potential to become its own spin-off DAO, and as a mini DAO, you can be generating revenue via working for other DAOs. And I assume part of that would be approaching other DAOs, and you need a brand for that. You need to be recognizable. Do I think it should be a priority? Probably not. There's other things you probably need to like get on with, but we could easily put something together for you guys, like as a package of like banners and logo, whatever, right? That can be done pretty easily. Hope that helps.
Yeah, it helps. Again, this is just a suggestion, and at the end, people will vote for it and see if that's important or not. You should consider this all as some sort of like options we vote on eventually. And then again, we should also be saying this is, even if we have a vote and it gives us a curated list of all these tags, it's not like really binding. If we feel afterwards that whatever the outcome of the vote is just so unrealistic and we can't really focus on it right now because we have a lot more urgent things to do, I think that's also just fair. It's just more of giving us an orientation of what we want to look at and get the whole community's voice on that. That's the whole thing. And also how it looks like in practice eventually, if we work with the propaganda or if we find an external designer, et cetera, it's something we will decide on later after the vote. Okay, I will just move on. And another tax she wrote is like revenue. We have a 10K budget for now. That's also, I think, important to emphasize, which is great, but it's also not too much if we consider that we want to pay everyone for their work. And so how do we create more revenue? Should we focus right away on creating more revenue? Should that be our highest priority? Is that very important? Couldn't we move on otherwise? Or is there other ways to work as a DataDAO without having this business-like going for profits attitude? I think that's an interesting one. I don't know really what she's going at here, to be honest, to read through it.
Which one are you talking about?
IDs. That's something you guys were working on, Matt. That's what you posted today? Yeah, ID-centric data analytics across ecosystems. Does she want us to... Okay, she wants
Like
us
the
to analyze the
NFTs.
data.
Yeah, the data from the NFTs.
Okay. I know what she's going at. Me personally, I had a bit of a small issue with this list of tags she made, because she mixed some things in it, which this all goes towards what do we want to do as a DataDAO? And they really focus more on what do we want to analyze next. Okay, so I want to just write. So she says, should we analyze next how people use IDs, NFT IDs across the finance.vote ecosystem? Should we analyze yield? Should we analyze markets? Should we analyze influence? Should we work on this? Again, goes into a different category.
These are tasks rather than
Yeah, these are rather
decisions.
tasks. I also would say so. I just reorganized them. And I'm happy to discuss this. But my objection here would be we already started analyzing things. And these tasks, or what do we want to analyze next, it just pops up. I was saying that in the session before. It really, the way it goes right now is we have the strategy calls on Mondays, and then within the strategy calls, the cosmic entity, the core team, just says, "Oh, we want to do a relaunch of all the dApps. Let's just analyze this. We need we need analytics for this, etc., etc." It just pops up out of the chaos, good chaos we have in this DAO. And then I try to gather everything and channel it and try to find people that work on it. I'm not sure if it's really smart or if it's feasible to vote on what we analyze next, because it's evolving, and it's also sometimes some of the stuff is very urgent and we have to do it first, etc., etc. I will keep this in the open. So she suggested that we vote on what we analyze next. Another thing she said would be focusing on data availability.
Can I make a recommendation?
Yeah.
I think you just pull that out, right? So you just pull out an analysis next. You pull that out. You create a document of that. You organize yourselves accordingly around the work you're going to do with that. But if you're voting on, say, if someone comes in and says, "Yeah, I really want to see the data and yield," and they put all their votes behind that, that's distracting from what the purpose of this debate is.
I completely agree with you. Yeah, I completely agree with you. Does anybody have anything against it, or should I just pull it out, or is there any?
I think it should be pulled out as well, and I think that the first 5 or 6 also need to be a bit reviewed because they overlap a bit.
Yeah, we do review them now. I just finished this. Then the last one she said is the last three ones are data availability. Me personally, I will not comment on it yet, but I also think this goes into a different category, but we can discuss it. Education, she said. Should we focus on creating more educational content? Should we create more tasks and organize them somewhere in a nice way? I think we just did that today, to be honest. I would just delete that. We just did it already. So unless I hear a
I agree.
veto, I would just delete it. And then she put anything else we missed. Before I open this up for discussion, I just wanted to ask you, Matt, because you have way more experience than me with influence. Is this okay, or do we have too many options, or what do you recommend? Is it like better to have fewer options or more options, or?
No, I think just as you see fit, whatever comes up is appropriate. I think don't worry about too much or too many. I don't think it's in it. I think there can be too many. There can be way too many sometimes. I think 10 tends to be like a pretty good number to aim for, but if you get 8 or 6 or whatever, that's fine.
All right. Okay. That could also be something we analyze at some point, like how many options are smart to have.
That will become a thing.
Having looked at some of the influence vote data, having like more than 20 is an issue, but less than 20 hasn't proved to be an issue yet.
Right.
It's just because of sampling, because we just don't have enough people voting right now.
Okay, so let's just open this for a discussion. What do you guys think about the text? Is there something else you want to have on this list? Is there something you want to have removed or rephrased? Looking forward to get your input.
So can I ask just a broader question on the aspect of voting in this ecosystem? Has the concept of conviction voting been applied to any of, or brought up, or we're not trying to suggest it would change that kind of important parameter, but has anybody even mentioned that or thought of that idea?
I never heard of conviction before. What do you mean?
The concept is just basically that influence. It's another means of growing influence, but it's based on time. So you essentially are staking your conviction on a given option, and the earlier that you do that within the voting window, the more that it has the ability to compound it. Essentially, at a early position, if you stake your conviction very early in the window, it has equal or stronger ability to approve of or go
I see
against
what
a certain
you're
position
getting at.
with a much larger value later.
No, I see what you're getting at. I think that's an influence question, right, regarding the voting. I'm not sure if the team has thought about this, maybe better than me, if they considered entering like a time aspect to the votes.
I'm just asking because it's one of the factors that we use in the token engineering commons, and it has a neat function. But I was just asking if that's ever even been mentioned conceptually. That might be a worthy tag individually and to think about. We'll see.
Hey, sorry, I had to actually step away for a second. I just got back and I literally just heard you, Gus. So sorry, did you ask me a question?
Yeah, there was a question around if there's any mechanism around voting early as opposed to voting late carries more weight. If there's any mechanism around that in the voting.
To give a blunt answer, we thought about it in terms of what actually there's, depending on it's psychological at that point. It's not, there's no mechanism that's built in terms of, okay, so if you vote early, you get a higher weighting or whatever. But if you think about it psychologically, what happens is people come and see votes and they can be influenced by what they're seeing. So there is something going on there, but there's no mechanism built in place.
As Gene explained it, I was reminded of how yield works. That the early on you get better yield, but I don't know if that even applies to the influence voting element.
No, it doesn't. Does that answer your question, Gene?
Yeah, just wondering if anybody had mentioned it or brought it up in the earlier discussions of the voting mechanisms, since I have only been paying attention to the community for well, as long as I was aware of it, which is only a month or two. So yeah. But
Should we go back then to the text? I think this is a bit very specific DataDAO thing. I don't want to take up too much of propaganda people's time with it. Should we just quickly go over it and maybe get your feedback on it, and then just type that down, and maybe then later on we discuss it within the DataDAO? What do you think, Matt? I just feel that it's not really propaganda related.
That's fine. I will 10 minutes, have some questions and we can talk a bit about propaganda stuff.
Yeah.
You guys, 10 to 15 minutes I'll need at the end.
Okay. Yeah, let's just do that. 10, 15 minutes discussing the tags, and then we just move that for a later DataDAO discussion. Okay, just go ahead and I will just type down whatever you think about.
So as I have a miniDAO question. So on the fifth tag, which was revenue, it says we have a budget of 10K. If there is no other source of revenue and that budget finishes, is there a miniDAO after?
I think the DAO can still exist without money. We don't.
Yeah, I also think so. Sorry to cut you there. And we could always reapply with finance.vote team and try to increase the budget. There's an option, right? It's an initial budget.
In terms of the unit as well, I would think, because like I'm in the US, you guys are Europe, is it utilitarian to mention what denomination?
Hey, Gene, I can't really make out what you're saying. I'm not sure if it's your microphone or what it is, but it's quite choppy.
Asking if we could delineate between cryptos and stables and euros and pounds and dollars. Could we just say what we're denominating?
You mean the currency of that 10K?
Yeah, is it 10K FET? Is it $10,000? Is it 10,000 euros?
It's FET 10K equivalent USD.
There we go. Thanks.
Yeah. So
I have some thoughts. Oh,
go ahead.
I have some thoughts around the tags. I like the tags, definitely. I think it's great because we are, as being the DataDAO, really part of that simplifying that data and identifying it and stripping it down. So I think the tags I like that there's about 10. I read them and I know we're going to be summarizing more. I didn't put too much onto what they say, but I think the meanings behind each one, like revenue. Are you voting on revenue, more money? Are you voting on more tools? Are you voting on partnering? All those, I think I know we need to put data for people to vote on, but those general principles are really strong. And I think it's going to be very useful to get these tags back because it is interesting to see. Like, we don't need money to operate. I mean, we do because we need to pay people, but what people find the most important from a data aspect, and then let's say people coming from propaganda to vote for this, what their data aspirations are. So I'm very interested by this vote. And the categories, I like them. That's productive.
Seconded. That's a great idea. The utilitarian. Great. Looking forward to hearing.
Okay, nice. That's cool. Is there anything else you want to have on that list?
I think that there's an aspect of how does the work that is produced is actually paid for. So if we produce all of a sudden a lot of influence.vote data, does the MetaDAO then get to buy that off? Or how that dynamic would work would probably be something that's interesting, because in my mind, if people are going to continue to offer their time to a DAO, they need to be paid. I think that not being paid doesn't work in the universe. And so as I look at this list, if we want to recruit people, I need a budget. If I want to be able to go out to other DAOs and produce work for them, I need to be paid for that. And these things, if you interlink, even if I want to produce a brand, I need to be able to pay for it.
I think they are interlinked. I do agree with you. We need money. We do. But I think at this time in the process of identifying the poll size, the sample size, and the sample information, yes, it'd be so nice if Lizzo could be paid and everyone that has put it forth into it now. But I think it goes back to the DAO bootstrapping. And I know there's that. And it also takes a shift of belief, imagination, that there's potential we might get paid for this in the future, but we need to build this foundation apart. And I hear we need a budget, but I guess the answer to that would be there is a $10,000 budget. That's the budget, the imaginary number, but we're not going to let that number determine what we imagine, because we're still at the imagination phase. So my intention for speaking was to hope that you're not staring at your untied shoes or staring at your tied shoes and not able to see the rest. But I agree that yes, people should be paid, and appreciate your advocacy for.
To that point, it's critical to establish and ask Matt, by underwriting or financing the miniDAO, does finance retain IP for anything that might be emerging from a concept like this? Seeing as I was trying to insight mine.
I think we weren't there I don't think you were there in the conversation yesterday, Gene. Were you?
I was not.
No, okay. So that's something we've touched on this. in a kind of roundabout way, and we were talking about intellectual property, copyright, Adebola. Is it Adebola your friend? I want to say, I think
Yeah,
I
he
pronounced
is.
it right. Yeah, it is Adebola. Is that right? Am I pronouncing it correctly?
Yeah, that's correct.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, we were discussing it with him a bit as well. Like, when people are writing things, how does that all work in terms of copyright? And I think this is something which is still really unclear. Pretty much, I think the way we're going to look at all data is going to be open sourced, I think, is the key sort of benchmark. In terms of the analysis that you carry out for other DAOs or for FVT, I think that's all up for discussion, frankly. But I could imagine in the beginning instance, I don't think ownership is the right way to think about it because we don't have a legal wrapper. So it's not like there's this clear line of like legal ownership over something because we live in the metaverse.
Yeah, that's fair enough. I just wanted to make sure there wasn't an explicit assertion that I wasn't aware of. But yeah, awesome, great.
Yeah, no worries.
That might be another vote in the future too. I'm sorry. Another vote in the future or plan. I don't want to assume it's going to be a vote, but in my corporate job, part of what we do retraining every year of what type of data we're dealing with. And part of what we need to discover in this process, I think, is private data to FVT, right? That might be, if you know the citizens' names, we're not giving that to other people. But then there's the open source data, like anything people can get from Twitter, stuff like that. Anything people submit themselves might be public, but those levels of security are important to define. But I do also like the idea that it's pretty much all of it is open and public. Maybe the way we get the data, we don't share with competitors to some degree. If you have a smart algorithm, maybe don't share it with them. That's your call. But I think it's the privacy that nobody owns the data, but we just have a small responsibility to protect certain pieces of it as we move forward.
Yeah, I think that's really important actually. First of all the data is available already anyway, and you can just find a YouTube tutorial that tells you how to query the data. So I don't think we need to protect anything here or anyhow. The only thing that is a bit tricky is when it comes to analyzing the community. We have Discord stats, so we could just analyze Discord and what's going on within the Discord. And we do have it's a tricky thing because we don't really have your real identity, but however, I still think even your pseudonymous identity is somehow important to be protected in a way. We don't expose you, we don't say NFTA is also in this and that DAO, for example. I don't think that's anyone's business, what you do in other DAOs, for example. So that's something we need to have an eye on. Yeah, that's really important actually. Fabs, just going back to what you said, I think there's two things to this. One is that we need to pay people within the DataDAO, and we need to manage how we pay work that is across DAOs. That is something we definitely need to figure out, especially also with view propaganda. If, for example, when we provide you with the matrix for the newsletter, who's going to pay for that eventually? I think that's something we still need to discuss. I'm not sure if it's something we should put as a priority, because I do think it is a priority and we should do that independent of the vote. But if you say, yeah, governance, I could put an extra pointer saying reward structuring payments or rewards or something, or budgeting if you want. I'm not sure. I think we should do it anyway.
So there's this, I hate to refer to Silicon Valley, but I'm going to, because I really think this is actually a really cool definition. Like a startup in Silicon Valley is a company or a business that has no business plan. And that's where you are. It's where most things are in DAO space. It's all this kind of like, we've got some cool ideas and we've got some tech, but we don't have a business plan. And without a business plan, it's really hard to come up with a revenue model. Without a revenue model, it's really hard to come up with payment structures. So I think do stuff, and then you'll figure out actually what is the product market fit here. What can I do? And not just product market fit with finance.vote. It's like the DAO space in general. What service are you guys going to be able to offer to other DAOs? And I think the more stuff you just do, you'll figure that out. And then from there, you'll be able to figure out all these other things like payment methods and models and stuff. I think that the other way around is putting the cart before the horse, so to speak. And it's probably not going to give you the best opportunity to just keep searching. If you move too quickly into optimization, you're going to miss all the opportunities to do all the searching. That's just my opinion, but there you go.
No, I agree with you there. 100%. I do think we should focusing on building. However, I think it is important that we find like a temporary setup for paying people. I would say we just discuss this maybe in one of the next sessions we have in a DataDAO. What do you think? And we discuss how we could do it for now, just like what we did today with the task. We said, okay, for now we try this, and if it doesn't work, we iterate over it, etc., etc. Would you agree with it? Would that be okay for you? If we maybe the next week or the week after we start discussing this? Okay, so then I won't put it as an option to vote for because we will do it anyway. We won't vote on it to do it. Is that okay? Okay. Silence. I take it as an okay. Is there anything else you want to see on this list, or should we move that discussion into for another day? You want to think about it first? Or do you think it's completed already? It's finished?
Yeah, it's good to let everybody, if they haven't gone through it, since we obviously made a little bit of adjustments in what was being considered on the list, to let them make sure they read them all and digest them. But I was going to add a couple of as well, so it's certainly good to establish what was here and iterate.
I would love to hear what Ksenia has to say, because given she initiated this process, I'd love to hear her input on these items as well.
Okay, yeah, I think that's a fair point. So what I would suggest is we move this until next Thursday, and then we move it into just into a DataDAO session. Unless Matt, you say it's really interesting for you and you want to participate in it. I just feel we're taking your time with. Yeah.
That's fine. You guys do as you see fit. I suppose what I'll do is I'll take the last 5 minutes here, because we will wrap up in 7 minutes.
Yeah, go for it.
And just, okay, so in terms of collaboration with you guys, as I've mentioned before, there's 3 main areas where the propaganda would like to use the services of DataDAO. So these, I think, for example, in the future could be your potential revenue models, for example. I don't know, it might not be, but it's an experiment. And that's the thing, just run experiments. We have obviously the weekly newsletter, the monthly newsletter as main things that we're working on right now. And then we're going to go into building Twitter type things like mechanisms. What would be cool would be, I don't know if it doesn't work for the weekly, but some sort of data insight on the weekly newsletter, some sort of insight on the monthly newsletter, and then like towards the end of the year and then maybe we can do quarterly things. I just don't know what's available as data to be used and distributed, and how long it takes to get that thing together. And then I think NFTA, we were talking about data art. It'd be really cool to have different interpretations of data. So to have the generative image that I think you were talking about, I know you shared the one, and something like that would be really cool, because we can turn that into the newsletter cover or something. And each month we can have, or each week, depending on the ability to generate that. I don't know what that takes, to be honest with you. There's all these cool use cases that I think would be interesting.
Yeah, the art will be, I also don't know the exact steps to make it. I do, as the artist, I know, okay, we need to do some coding and we need to figure out what we want to make, which is this call too. We have to figure out what we want to make. And I will, not to share my votes, my influence, I'll be voting for education, because to produce this art, I definitely need to know, like you, what data we have and then what discussions are happening, because it's not a singular person. Really, I know I might be the one that's spearheading that idea, but I know that I'll need help from everyone, and it's what we want to show. I see it almost like objects. FBT data is one object. Stoner Cat's data is other, and we can I see fun ways to combine those in generative art and maybe continue to show that over a monthly period or weekly. I, again, don't know exactly what it takes and what we have, but we'll get something.
Okay, cool. So that's cool. So just so I know now, so realistically, it's not something that's going to happen in the immediate future. It's something which is maybe a month or 2 months away or something like that.
Consistently, I'd say probably yes, about 2 months. But I can get with Lizzle and Ksenia and the DataDAO people and discuss what we have as data now and see what we can make off of what we have so far as well.
Yeah.
So so data is art, but then in terms of analytics on a weekly or monthly basis, I'm not sure what's possible, whether that's new wallets, new IDs, total value locked, the stuff that is, I don't know. I assume that's relatively close to the surface, but it might not be. I don't know what you guys think.
I just should say we have some metrics already as some sort of byproduct from the influence analysis we did. I wasn't sure where to post it though, or how to get them to you. And as for the others, I just formulated a bounty also because we need more people to work on it to just find facts. It shouldn't be so hard. It's a beginner thing. But I hope that we have more within the next weeks after I publish the bounty.
Okay, cool. So like on that then, so from our perspective as propaganda, obviously this is something again we'd like to be consistent with, right? So whether we publish weekly or monthly, I assume it will be monthly. The weekly newsletter is more DAO news. So what's going on in DAO land, it's that perspective. Whereas the monthly newsletter is like in-depth FVT stuff. So that would be my preference in the beginning, is to have, some like a consistent set of data that we report each month on the DAO. So the next one is due to go out on the 1st, which is Tuesday. So it's Tuesday, February the 1st. Do you think we'll be ready to have a set of data to go by then?
Well, you need it before, right? When would you need it latest?
Oh, ideally like the week before, but realistically, as we do it, we want it to be as close to live as possible, if that makes sense. So I'm almost happy with the day before because it doesn't take much for us to update the Substack and just copy and paste the data in. It's a non-issue, right? The same day is no good, but the day before at the latest will be fine. What would be amazing is two things. So A, data, but B, some insights on that data, like text insight. Is that
So
something?
that was my next question. Do you want us to make like an infographic, or should we just give you the metrics and then a small piece of text with it and you design it?
I know I've got something in my mind. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was saying I was throwing in my hand. It's hard with voice, and you can't see people. I was just saying I'll help design too. I'll help design data propaganda piece that the newsletter.
Cool. Yeah. So that'd be awesome. Thank you. So I think like a infographic of the data would be awesome. Make it as readable for people as possible. And then if the infographic is like where the text lies, or if the infographic is purely like a graphical thing to break things and there's a piece of text underneath, however you want to work that, we're really open to whatever it is you want to use as your product. Because I see it as a product, right? This is one of the products that you guys can produce for other DAOs as well. If you figure out how this should look, how it should work, this is a product that's retailable.
Yeah, that's actually a good point. And how is that going to work? And this is something we have to discuss later, but this is something that's being paid for by the DataDAO, or something you would pay for? If you just publish a bounty, I was just thinking. Okay, cool. Okay, so I would say we just give it a try with this the next newsletter. And if you want to, what we can do is we can just publish it we can publish what we got somewhere, and then you tell us if this is okay. And if you like it, then we turn it into an infographic. What do you think about this?
Yeah, that sounds fine. So each newsletter goes out on the 1st. And for me, I think I said this to you guys before, right? Like I don't like doing short-term experiments. I like doing things which run for a period of time to really gauge whether they work or not. So something like this, I would say that, because I imagine whatever we produce in the first newsletter, DataDAO propaganda collaboration around this sort of infographic in the newsletter, what's produced now will probably be quite different from what's going to be produced in 6 months time, 12 months time. So I would say this is going to be like a monthly commitment from us to you guys, and vice versa, that we're all looking for. And on the weekly newsletter, I'm not quite sure, and the same goes with the art as well. On the weekly, you guys figure out what is possible and what isn't possible in terms of like data presentations, data journalism, as you do, Lizzle. Let us know what you think is realistic.
I think realistically, we should start with a monthly newsletter just to see how it works. And also, we don't have too many people working in the DataDAO yet. So it's my responsibility right now. If you could do the monthly newsletter, it would be great. And then hopefully we can increase.
Sure. Like I say, yeah, the monthly is where the main thing is. So that's my expectation in that sense. And then we'll build over time. And like I said, I don't think the weekly is going to work because it's not really about FET. It's about the DAO land. But I'm just in terms of the data journalism you do in general, this all could be an interesting contribution to the weekly because you have.
I'm sorry, I misunderstood then. Okay.
I probably wasn't clear.
No. What do you mean with the data journalism? Like the reports I did on the markets, or What
Yeah,
exactly?
yeah. So I know that you've done that for us, but I wasn't. Okay, so I wasn't clear. That's my bad. So I'm not sure what it. Do you do that for other DAOs or chains or whatever?
Yeah, I haven't done it for DAOs yet, actually. Yeah. Okay, so you mean like a report or some nice visuals or something that could go into the weekly one?
Yeah, I think that could be an interesting. So DAO news is fine, like creative DAO news is fine, but if you bring some original insight, that'd be amazing. But like I said, I'm not sure how much time and effort that would take for you to.
It would be generally about DAOs, right?
Yeah.
Okay, let me have a look at it. I'm not sure if I can do it on a weekly basis, but let me have a look at it. And I'm happy to take other people on board if anyone has an idea.
I mean, or maybe it's.
Sorry, buddy. Do you have themes for these communication pieces? Is there like a theme specific for 1 month or another, or there's no planning?
It's curated news, so it's weekly curated news. So like, we're thinking about themes, but the problem is that you can set a theme and just not the market direction. That's not what's going on that week. So you're busy talking about, oh, this is wonderful in the land of monkey NFTs, and actually the world's focused on Constitution DAO. So it's more reactive than that, I would say. That we are thinking about themes, but I would say in the beginning, right now, we're just building a structure and we're going to just deliver on that consistently. And then once we've...
Is that the same for the monthly?
The monthly is a breakdown of what FET has been up to.
Gotcha.
So that is FET focused, what's going on in FET world. Updates, so to speak. And in case you missed it, I think it's probably the way to think about it. So I had another thought, but I lost it. Doesn't matter. Cool. But yeah, so we can wrap it up here, unless you guys have any questions for me or anything to say or Lizzle.
I couldn't unmute myself. No, not from my side. I would say we'll just give it a go and see how it goes with the newsletter, and then the next miniDAO meeting we just see and then maybe improve. Something is not going the right way.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, have a think about data journalism with regards to DAOs.
Yeah, I will.
And let me know what you think is possible.
Yeah, I think what's possible. Yeah, I will think about it. Yeah.
And Lizzle, I can meet with you too at any point available. I feel confident that I can commit to the monthly newsletter art and data insight process, a discovery. So I do feel confident that I can commit to that for the next, let's say, year, hopefully.
Okay,
Nice.
That's great. Yeah.
Yeah, obviously the first time will be a bit clunky. Nothing's going to work that well in terms of like process. And then 3 months we'll have something clearer. And then hopefully we've got this hopefully low friction, minimal effort in a good way, production of really good art and insights. And maybe it's a dashboard that we can just download or something. I don't know. We need to think about how this is all going to work, but we'll take our time with it and we'll build it. So no pressure or anything, but cool. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Cool. Lizzle, do we stay here to continue the chat?
Oh, can we take a short break? For like
I have a hard stop at 2 o'clock my time, so in an hour. But I have a 30-minute meeting, and I can come back after that as well.
Oh, I have to leave it in 1 hour. Okay, let's just take a 10-minute break then, and then we continue. Okay.
Sounds
Okay.
good.
See you guys.
Okay.